Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. IRS reminder. For many employers and self-employed people, deferred Social Security tax payment due January 3rd. But first, an attempt at a joke. I apologize in advance. Why is it that Omicron is making more headlines these days than a pillow made of corduroy? The panic-induced news headlines are certainly more harmful than Omicron, which is probably less harmful to most people than the corduroy pillow headlines. My doctor has advised less headline consumption in total, as well as purchasing a new pillow, possibly one made of cotton. Plus, how come the Fed didn't see this inflation problem coming? They were so scared of interest rates going below zero, to avoid it, they would have stopped at nothing. IR 2021-256, December 27, 2021, Washington. The Internal Revenue Service today reminded employers and self-employed individuals that chose to defer paying part of their 2020 Social Security tax obligation that a payment is due on January 3, 2022. Most affected employers and self-employed individuals received reminder billing notices from the IRS. The agency noted, however, that those affected are still required to make the payment on time even if they did not receive a bill. As part of the COVID relief provided during 2020, employers and self-employed people could choose to put off paying the employer's share of their eligible Social Security tax liability, normally 6.2% of wages. Half of that deferral is now due on January 3rd, 2022, and the other half on January 3rd, 2023. So obviously, if you have that deferral, it was a deferral and not a removal of the tax entirely. And so now they're going to be coming due if you took that deferral taking place. And obviously, when they put these kind of things down, they're focusing on the payroll taxes generally. And so they're looking at the employer's relationship with the payroll taxes in an attempt, I would assume, and I believe that was the case at the time, to try to increase employment and keep employment up. Even during the downturn was kind of the push at that point in time. And then, of course, once you do something to the payroll taxes, people that are self-employed who are paying self-employment tax, which is kind of a similar type of thing, they got to pay both the employer and employee portion of, in essence, Medicare and Social Security. Then they kind of have to include that as well if you're self-employed, given the fact that that's basically kind of the same type of thing. And then they defer those payments, and now the deferrals are, of course, becoming due. Under separate COVID relief, employers could choose to forgo withholding Social Security taxes from eligible employees and instead withhold tax this year and then pay those amounts to the IRS. For details, you can visit what employers need to know about repayment and deferred payroll taxes. There's a link to that here. It's on irs.gov, of course. How to repay the deferral taxes. Employers and individuals can make their deferral payments through the electronic federal tax payment system or by credit or debit card, money order, or with a check. There's a link to those options here. To be sure these payments are credited properly, they must be made separately from other tax payments. EFTPS has an option to make a deferral payment. On the tax type selection screen, choose deferred Social Security tax and then change the date to the applicable tax period, typically the calendar quarter 2020, for which tax was deferred. Visit EFTPS.gov. There's a link to that here, or call 800-555-4477 or 800-733-4829 for details. Individual taxpayers can also use direct pay. There's a link to that here, available only on irs.gov. Select the, quote, balance due, end quote, reason for payment. If paying with a debit or credit card, select, quote, installment agreement, end quote. Apply the payment to the 2020 tax year where the payment was deferred. And there's going to be links to those items here. There'll be a link to this in the description.